Hi everybody, it's Teresa Mealy with Teresa Mealy Total Health and Wellness. I'm here with a special guest again, Mark Mealy, my husband. I just told him it won't be so special after about the third time because he's a little introverted and not a social media person, but this is his second video now. You're really out there.
Yeah.
So we were just going to talk about a few odds and ends kind of things, some things that through the week at the clinic you just kind of get frustrated about, and Mark works here too, so he knows what's going on, and sometimes I go home and I'm upset about certain things, and so anyway, we just wanted to come on and talk about a couple things. So number one, I hope everyone still understands that diet really matters, okay? So like for instance, you taught me about diet way long time ago. You are sometimes the one that brings up these controversial issues, and I'm kind of like, from a Western medicine standpoint, like, you're kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was things like that were brought up to me from some fellow coworkers that I was overseas with. Kind of woke me up to diet among many other things.
Yeah.
But I thought that was around the same time I started bringing it up to you.
Yep. So I kind of get a little irritated in the clinic because person after person comes in and they just have no idea about diet. Now, and I was the same way. So as a provider, so when I say provider, and we're simultaneously filming for YouTube and Facebook. So when I say provider, I mean doctor, MD, DO, nurse practitioner, PA, anybody that has access to your health records and giving you health information, okay? So as a provider, I never really knew this either. I just parroted the eat whole, the narrative, eat whole healthy grains and exercise more than you eat, and
low cholesterol, low fat.
Yeah.
Low fat was a big thing.
It was, because we grew up, like we were, graduated high school in the late 80s, so really grew up in the
early 90s for me.
Early 90s for him. So we were married, and starting out on our own in the 90s, and it was kind of like, oh, we got to eat low fat and low fat and low fat. And you remember that included Fig Newtons and Twizzler licorice.
We used to go to there was an Entenmann's outlet store, so it was like all the Entenmann's products, and they would have, they had a
fat-free.
A fat-free line, which all of them were, because it always was sugar and carbs.
Oh my gosh.
And they had a store right there in Clearwater, and we used to go to that. I think it was on Sundays, because they had a sale on top of their already heavily discounted prices.
Yeah, it was an outlet.
It was an outlet, and we would go in there and buy up, 4 or 5 of these huge pastries or rolls or whatever they would have, and then we would feed on that all week.
Yep.
So.
And that just,
it was bad.
It's silly now, but Snackwell's cookies, fat-free, Fig Newtons. Oh, do you remember the Little Debbie oatmeal cream pies? You never liked them, but I loved them.
Yeah,
and they had the fat-free.
Yeah, and then they had another one they came out with where they were doing Doritos and fat-free. They were using that Olean or Olestra.
Yeah.
And they pulled that from the market. There were some health scares, shockingly, so they only did that for a couple of years, I think, before they had to pull those.
Right. So my new way of thinking is, we've been doing this healthy whole grains now, following this new food pyramid since probably the 50s or 60s. So that's quite a long time for this experiment that has gone on. Ansel Keys was the big researcher that came out and kind of promoted that fat was bad. But if you go back and look at his studies, it was hugely flawed. Everybody knows it now, but you're not going to see anything on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, where the Diabetic Association and all these people are going to come out and say, hey, you know what? I'm so sorry, but we were wrong. And now we've messed you guys up to no end. And so, but now just don't do what we said. Like, there's not going to be any big, great announcement on the TV channels. It will be, in the back of a magazine or on the last page of a newspaper once, not like when it came out, it hit every news station, every, big event that they had on, like the morning shows, the noon shows, the evening shows. It won't be anything like that. But trust me when I tell you, we have been duped, okay? So healthy whole grains, out. Low fat, out. Low cholesterol, out. We need to get back to eating the way our ancestors ate, which is periods of feasting and famine, where they hunted for food, and it might have taken them 24 hours, it might have taken them 7 days to find something to kill. They kill it, they feast then for a little bit, however long it takes them. They also eat head to tail, so they eat all the organs, they eat everything, and then they go on to the next meal. They don't when they kill something, they're not in a place where they have grown broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cauliflower and carrots, because there's no such thing back then. And wheat.
And corn and soy.
Oh, yay. So there's none of that standing around so they can say, oh, we just killed a buffalo. Let me pick some broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cook that up for dinner. There wasn't any of that. There also wasn't raspberries and blueberries and strawberries and watermelon and papaya and all of this stuff all year round. So they may have happened upon a berry patch if they were in the right place at the right season. But now we get it all year long.
Yeah.
You can just get it.
Kind of going back to what you were talking about the, a lot of the issues with the low fat craze came about as a result of the sugar industry. I think you mentioned that already. But the sugar industry pushed that in the 60s and 70s hugely. They villainized salt,
Yes.
and they villainized fat. And then by about the early 80s, all into the 90s is when we started seeing the effects of that. Was really becoming more mainstream. And there are some people who still follow that way of thinking today, that eating low fat is the way to go.
Yes.
Reducing cholesterol.
Yeah, salt took the fall for sugar. And there's an excellent book called The Salt Fix by Dr. James, I'm going to butcher his name, but DiNicolantonio or something like that. But salt is not bad for you. Salt does not cause hypertension or high blood pressure. So, hi, Steve. Hi, Jared or Janae. I don't know which one it is, Jared or Janae. So just know that the way we are eating has been a big experiment for the last 50, 60 years, and it's not working. Okay, so now 90, 80, that's right, eat the whole pig. That's what you need to do. So 80 to 90% of our population is obese or overweight. We have children now that are obese. Will you calm me down if I get too excited?
Sure, I can do that.
I feel
We
a
were
little...
just talking about the child thing with regards to obesity and what were we talking about?
Bariatric surgery. So, I know there's people out there that have had bariatric surgery. So, now when I think about it, so again, I've only been in this new position for 5 years, but you have to be in an open mind to receive other information, okay? Because it's hard to think, gosh, I went to school and I was up all night studying and taking these tests, and then now what you're telling me is not really true. And I would never mean to poison somebody or give them bad advice, but that's what we're doing. So bariatric surgery now is where they cut your stomach in half or staple it so you're not able to eat that kind of food anymore in the amount. So it brings it down to like the size of a walnut. Now they're doing it on teens, because we have an epidemic of obesity in teens, and now they're discussing doing it in children, okay? They want to staple children's stomachs. I just think we need to change the way we eat, okay? But it's not easy. It is not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying there aren't days where I think about, oh gosh, I wish I had a soda, but I'm saying there is a better way than all of us being overweight, all of us being on diabetes medicines, and all of us needing bariatric surgery. I'm going to do a separate diabetes video soon because it's starting to really peeve me that I have patient after patient come in that's a diabetic and is on insulin. The problem is high insulin levels in diabetics, so why would you give insulin when they already have high insulin? You need to take away the sugar so the insulin will go down. Things. I'm starting to get excited. We're giving wrong advice. Okay, you're getting wrong advice. I gave wrong advice. So then I always say to Mark, sometimes I go home at night and I get all excited about what someone has told my patient, and I look at him and I say, am I wrong? Is Dr. Tro wrong? Is Dr. Ken Berry wrong? Christian Assad, Jason Fung, Ivor Cummins, all of these people that are on Twitter and YouTube giving out free advice like me right now for no money at all, just trying to undo what the medical field has done. Are they all wrong, or are we?
Yeah, and like you said, there's no financial gain for you really to push them. There's no reason you have to be doing this within your practice. You could be doing just the hormones specifically, or
just
the
taking
genetic testing, whatever you want to do,
Yeah.
and just completely discount diabetes and nutrition and diet, but you don't. And
Yeah, so if you're a diabetic, the only tool in the endocrinology toolbox is a prescription pad. And that goes for all providers. The only tool they have in their toolbox is a prescription pad And if you get to the surgeon level, you have surgery, like a scalpel for surgery. So if you go into your endocrinologist office and you have diabetes, they're going to say, here's your medicine. They might say, oh, you have a little sugar, just watch it and watch what you eat. But there's no guidance, and you can't get diet and nutrition guidance from just any provider, okay? Because we don't know that. We never learned it. It has to be someone that's taken extra initiative. So maybe they'll say, watch it. You come back in, it's still high. You get on your first diabetic medicine. And then it's still high, then that diabetic medicine dose gets raised. Then it's still high, you get a second diabetic medicine. If that's still high, that one gets raised. So now you've maxed out on those two, and then you go to insulin. The problem with diabetes, type 1 and type 2, but type 2 is diet induced, okay? It's self-inflicted. Type 1 is not. But even type 1, you need to reduce your sugar because your insulin requirement becomes less. So diabetics need to get into the mindset that they are allergic to sugar. If you were allergic to shellfish and you went to a restaurant, you would not order shellfish. You would order steak or chicken or something else. So that's what you have to assume, is you are allergic to sugar. If you bring down, let's just think about this. If you bring down your sugar, you naturally bring down the insulin requirement and your pancreas can rest. I'm also tired of patients saying, well, my endocrinologist said diabetes is a chronic and progressive disease. It is not. It is a reversible and curable disease. Your pancreas, once you get the fatty pancreas unfatted and get the triglycerides and fat mucking it up and causing dysfunction, it most likely will work again. I don't care if you've been on diabetic medicine for 10 years. It could work again. Do you have anything to add to that?
Oh, I think you pretty well covered that part.
So, diet is radical. So a lot of times, diet, people will say like, oh, you can't do keto. Keto is non-sustainable. So I just think, well, what is non-sustainable about eating meat and vegetables?
Well, certainly McDonald's and some of those other things that are also non-sustainable, but
Right.
we don't see people beating up and down, telling people not to eat that stuff.
Right, you all know those coworkers that go out to lunch every day. You know them, you work with them. You pass by their desk or you see them in the break room and they're eating, you name it, whatever fast food place they went to. I don't need to name them because you know them all, okay? So you know those people, they eat there every day of the week. And nobody walks by them and goes, gosh, you're having Pop-Tarts again for breakfast? Gosh, you're having Sonic again for lunch? Do you know that's unsustainable? Do you know that's going to give you diabetes and high cholesterol and high blood pressure?
While at the same time being completely nutrient deficient. It doesn't have any of the vitamins, minerals, or nutrients that you need. And
Well, that's a good point.
But people will look at you kind of strange if you walk into or you sit down to have lunch with them and you have a very healthy meal. You're eating keto. A good example is we went to Silver Dollar City, one of the local theme parks here in Branson. Mm-hmm. And we love going there. We go there, multiple times per year. And we went through the line at one of the barbecue shops that they had there, and they have a delicious lunch item called a burger dog. So it's basically a really big hot dog wrapped in a really big hamburger. So when we ordered the burger dog without buns. I ordered 2 of the burger dogs. They asked, do you want fries? No, we don't want fries. Do you want the baked beans? No, we don't want the baked beans. Thank you. And they couldn't get their heads wrapped around the fact that we were asking for this stuff without all the carbs and all the sugars and stuff. And they kept offering us more and more. We're like, no, we're good. We got this. Just give me back. Oh, and we also had a big bag of pork rinds we had just bought from there. So
yeah, I posted that last week in our meal. But I was through the line with the kids waiting on him to pay because I didn't have any money. But he was the one that said, oh gosh, they were so confused. And then after we paid and was heading down to find a seat, the guy even ran to Mark and was like, take a salad, take something. And so they handed him a salad. Like they're so afraid we might die without our carbs. And let me just say, carbohydrates are non-essential. You will not die if you don't have them. You may feel like you're going to die without them for the first week, 5 days while you're without them, but you won't die. You will die if you don't have fat with the fatty acids, and you will die if you don't have protein and the amino acids in there, but you will not die from no carbohydrates. But they were a little, I didn't see it, but Mark was like, they were really concerned.
It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It just didn't work for them, But it's just that way of thinking. We've been, so conditioned to think a certain way. and eat a certain way, that's their normal. It's not ours.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's not everybody else's out there either. People are starting to learn and wake up, and they're doing better. We've noticed that there are some patients here at the clinic who do really well following some of these people that Teresa mentioned, like Dr. Tro and other people. There's other people here who really just, they don't care. You tell them they're going to be on, they're diabetic and they need to be on a medication for the rest of their lives, and it doesn't faze them. And it's those people, there's a small percentage of those I think we can still reach and we can still get through to, but then there's a larger portion of that, they're just not interested. They have less interest, less vested interest in their health than Teresa does. And when it gets to that point and she starts getting frustrated, I'm like, hon, they just don't care. Like you're not going to be able to do anything for that small percentage, or I guess that's a large percentage actually, of the people who have these issues. You're just not going to get through to everybody. So focus on the ones you can. Give these people who act like they're not interested, give them a little more. Try and try and make them more aware and see if they won't change. But at a certain point, you've just got to say, okay, I can't beat my head against the wall trying to fix and change everybody.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I go home and I'm really, really frustrated, and because I sometimes am more invested in people's health, and sometimes they're just not there yet.
And they are.
Right, and sometimes I think, well, maybe there are certain people that need to hear it, thanks Jane, that need to hear it 103 times, and I am willing to tell you 103 times, because every night I go to bed and I say my prayers and I answer to one person, and that one person, when I go to meet him in heaven and he says, my child, you did everything you could, then I know that that's what I did. That's all I could do. He's given me the resources. He's given me the knowledge. He's given me the opportunity to relearn things. I'm going to spread the information, okay? And so sometimes we have people, so sometimes I'm also very thankful that God put me through the struggles he put me through. So in January, some of you have heard me talk about a health scare that I had. I had potential ovarian cancer. I had a cyst that was just really odd, and I would be happy to tell anyone about it in the clinic, but I had some symptoms that were just really odd, and Christina said, you would tell a patient to go get an ultrasound, so you need an ultrasound. So then my symptoms kind of went away, and I was like, I'm going to cancel my ultrasound. And Christina's like, you can't. So I went, and I had this weird looking cyst that the report basically read, while this could be benign, it is most likely and highly suspicious for cystic ovarian carcinoma. And so we got that report on a Thursday here in the office, and the three of us had just finished lunch, me, Mark, and Christina. And Christina got the report, and she's just like, oh my gosh, what? You didn't tell me this is what the report said. And because I didn't really realize all of it when I was in there. And so the three of us dropped to our knees and started praying. I instantly put frankincense on my side, and I did a lot of quote unquote alternative things, but to me, they're not alternative. They are what has been in place since the dawn of time. So that's what I did. But from that second on, I stopped eating sugar, because I used to be a dirty keto person where I would still cheat one or two meals a week. And so from that second on, we just prayed. We went down every Sunday, Mark and I, for prayer in church. We filled out prayer cards. We did everything we could on our end. And that is another reason I am very thankful that God put me through that struggle, because it gives me even more confidence to tell you guys, and everything's fine now. I've had 2 follow-up scans and everything's fine.
I was going to make sure you went.
Yeah.
I thought you forgot about that part.
I did for a second.
It wasn't right away though. We went.
No, it's 6 weeks.
We went 6 weeks between scans, and we basically we just carpet bombed Teresa's body with everything we could think of doing, short of chemotherapy, radiation, surgeries, those kind of things. Yeah,
and my CA-125, which is a cancer marker, was elevated, and then after the end of it all, and I went back, it was back down to normal. And but the key is, when I heard that read that diagnosis, I was like, holy crap, something's wrong with my body. I wasn't mad at my body. I wasn't necessarily scared, although there are times when you're kind of like, oh gosh. I knew I was going to be fine, and all I can tell you is the Holy Spirit spoke to me, and I was going to be fine. I didn't know how far along I would have to go, but I would be fine. But what I thought about was I stopped exercising. I just focused on healing my body. And what I thought about was something is deficient in my body. My body is screaming to me that it needs help and it needs support. So I'm saying, before that report in January, I was a dirty keto and I cheated. Keto-er, and I cheated. But as soon as I got that diagnosis, that was enough for me, because it was more important for me to be healthy. And all I'm saying is I've had cancer scares for patients in the office with prostate cancer. I've had, hi Lisa, I have diagnosed patients with diabetes. If someone told me I had diabetes, I would be like, wow, how can I fix that? And nothing. So I don't know. I know there's lots of obstacles. Socially, we are a culture of, going out to eat and having people over, and it's hard to give up birthday cake, and it's hard to whatever it is.
But in some cases you have to. You just have to do the hard work on your own. Nobody can do it for you.
Right. Thanks, Jane. So, I know it's hard, and what happens a lot of times when I talk to patients, this is a normal scenario in the office. So I ask people lots of questions, but one of them is, what is your diet like? I eat clean. I'm like, okay, great. What does that mean to you? I eat all organic. I'm like, great. So what exactly are you eating organic? And so, it's organic granola, it's organic chocolate, it's organic sugar. It's, but it's
Organic
still
gummy bears.
Organic gummy bears. It's still sugar and carbs. And so, so somebody said to me one time, I said, well, tell me your meals you've had lately. So she said, well, yesterday I made blueberry muffins for the kids, but that was only because it was a snow day and they were out of school. So it was like special. And I was like, yep, I get that. Because at the time, before my ovarian thing, I was like, that was us too. And then she said, but then the next day, oh, you know what? We had pizza. It was only because the kids had people over, and we had a early baseball game. And so then kids came over to our house. Oh, so we ordered pizza. And I was like, yep, that's me. I know that. That's how it works. Oh, but then we had a birthday cake the next day, but it was Friday, but it was only because it was so-and-so's birthday. But that only happens once a year. Right, but you have 50 family members, so you have 50 birthdays a year. Okay, yep, I get it, because that's me, I get it. And then, but then Sunday we went out to eat, and I had, nachos. But it was only because my aunt and uncle, they came into town, and they haven't been here in years. And so do you know what I'm saying? So we used to do that. Like, I would cheat only when we went out to eat. When we lived on the farm, it really was only one day a week. When we moved to town, it was a lot. And so I think food sneaks up on people, and before you realize it, you've cheated so many times, right?
Yeah, you're sabotaging your lifestyle.
Yeah, totally sabotaging it. So, but I was thinking too, while I was talking back to bariatric surgery, and now they're thinking about it with kids. We're sabotaging kids because preschools, daycares, and schools serve for breakfast blueberry muffin, Cheerios, or Frosted Flakes, or whatever you want, with milk, a juice, and a banana. That is enough carbs, even for kids who are active, to probably have, 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, it might fuel them for a while.
And that is one meal. And then it's full of dyes and all this other stuff. And then you expect them to be quiet and sit still. Little boys, especially, who aren't meant to be in school until about 7 or 8, because they're just, wired naturally. You said you had problems in school, like you just couldn't sit still.
Yeah. Anybody that knows me, I was horrible in school.
Yeah, right, bad car. And then it fuels them for all day. And Mark said when he was little, he would just think, if I could just stand up at my desk, I would be better. So, boys are different than girls. And so feeding them all that stuff, it just sabotages them. And I just want people, and I know it's hard, but I want people to start thinking about food as poison or as medicine, because it could be either. So we think about genetics. Oh, genetically, my mom had breast cancer, or my, diabetes and cholesterol. It's in my family. Well, we do have genes that are passed down from our parents, but we can also turn on those genes, or we can turn them off. And you do that with food and sleep and low stress and good hormones and exercise and all of these things. And so, that's what we need to be doing and fighting for our body, and not do something so radical as bariatric surgery. And then the other thing, I did make notes, even though I talk off the cuff. There's this person that we follow on Twitter, and she was a young girl, and she had seizures. And so I'm thinking about, again, like how keto's non-sustainable. Keto's non-sustainable. No, eating Sonic and McDonald's every day is non-sustainable. But she had seizures. She ended up being on 5 seizure medicines. She ended up gaining a ton of weight. She weighed over 300 pounds. And they were talking about taking out part of her temporal lobe. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like part of her brain. They were going to take out some of her brain to stop the seizures. So keto's radical. but
Apparently so.
taking out your part of your brain is not radical. So she found keto, thank God, before all of that and started doing keto. They told her, if you do keto, it is very radical. I would not trust it. She did keto. She's off all her medicines. Incidentally, not even trying. She just was trying to fix her seizures. She lost 180 pounds. She's living her life. She's hiking, all of this stuff. So Dr. Tro, who I follow and tell you guys about him, had her on one of his podcasts. So it's not radical. We're just eating real food. We clearly are not vegans. If you're a vegan, it's fine, but just eat real food, okay? Just eat real food. Just support your body with how it's supposed to be supported, and it'll do the rest for you.
And take it slowly, methodically, incrementally. Like this isn't a quick fix thing. You didn't get, if you have issues with diabetes or you're overweight, whatever the case is, you didn't get there overnight. So don't expect it to go the other direction overnight either. And we all fail. Like, I am probably one of the most strict people with regards to how I eat. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm pretty religious about how I eat. But I fail all the time. I fail. I eat more than I should on certain occasions. I eat outside of or inside of my fasting window when I shouldn't be eating. And so you have to learn to forgive yourself when you make those mistakes and then start over when you're done. So,
and this, if you make a mistake, all you have is 3 hours and you can start over. 3 hours, that glucose will be cleared and you can start over in 3 hours. It doesn't have to be tomorrow. It doesn't have to be Monday. It doesn't have to be next month. It can be in 3 hours. You can just start over at the next meal. And incidentally, intermittent fasting is an excellent way. And we shouldn't be eating every 2 to 3 hours like we've been taught too. And those of you interested to figure out how we got here, look up the Flexner Report of 1910. And it will give you a lot of information. That is when the medical schools were sabotaged and created differently to promote pharmaceuticals. So look up Flexner Report of 1910, and that'll give you a good idea. It's not like your providers are out there like, ooh, I'm gonna make them sicker. Ooh, I'm gonna make more money because I have them on 3 medicines and not 2. They are just doing what they were taught. And for instance, like endocrinologists, there's no diet in their toolbox. Like, they're looking around in their toolbox. They don't have to look far. It's just a prescription pad. That's their tool. And so they don't know to say to patients, stop eating sugar. If I give you insulin, it's going to make it worse. Diabetes is a disease of high insulin, hyperinsulinemia. I'm not going to give you insulin because it's going to make it worse. They're not doing it to be malicious, and they're certainly not dumb. They are just doing what they think is right, and they have to be open-minded to learn differently. And also, I was reading another doctor on Twitter said, some of us are open-minded, but if your medical malpractice is paid for by the hospital, there's certain things we can't do, and there's certain things we can't say. And there's lots of people that are told on the down low in the office by their provider, do keto, I just can't say it out loud. Happens a lot. So, providers are restricted in what they can and can't do. So let me just look at my notes here, because how long have we been going? 30 minutes?
We're almost 30 minutes.
So I will do a video about diabetes because it's starting to really make me so aggravated. Thank you. Because we're doing it wrong. We're giving you wrong advice. But people to follow on Facebook or YouTube is Dr. Tro, T-R-O, Dr. Ken Berry. So Dr. Tro has a little bit longer podcast. Dr. Ken Berry on YouTube has short, condensed, like 12-minute videos. Both of them, I act like I know them personally. I am going to go try to meet with Dr. Tro later in the summer, but they both were over 300 pounds and then got diagnosed with diabetes. And then Ken Berry will tell you in his videos, then he was like, crap, I need to figure it out. Well, I tell my patients, move more and eat less. So he tried that and it didn't work. And now he's thinking, oh gosh, I thought my patients were just lazy, but it really doesn't work. And so he went back to his medical school books to see, did I miss nutrition? Like, why are we doing it wrong? Why did this happen? And he couldn't find much. It was very little because we don't learn anything. So he had to go and learn it himself. And they're both